Okay, so we've been talking about how engineering can help reduce urban flooding. One potential source of flooding is from our rivers, and civil engineers are involved in the design of the structures we find on rivers, such as bridges and culverts. Now, we're all probably quite familiar with bridges. We see them in lots of different places, but the nature of culverts make them a lot less visible. So for those of you not so familiar with these, they're a bit like a cross between a bridge and a pipe. They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, but basically their job is to carry a watercourse under an obstacle. The problem with these culverts, though, is that they can become blocked a lot more easily than a bridge can. And if this blockage happens deep inside the culvert, then getting it cleared can be a big problem. It can take a lot of time, it can be quite expensive, and it's also at times potentially dangerous. It might mean a maintenance crew has to work a considerable distance from an access point in cramped and badly ventilated spaces. One thing we can do to stop these internal blockages is to fit a screen over the culvert inlet. Now, these screens are designed to trap any debris that might be being carried in the water and stop it from getting into the culvert itself. But what can happen is that we start to get a build-up of debris on these screens. And if it builds up to such an extent that it stops or slows down the water getting into the culvert, then upstream water levels might start to rise, and that can mean there's a greater chance of flooding. All sorts of debris gets trapped on these screens. Natural debris such as twigs, branches and leaves are quite common, especially if the river or stream have been through areas of forest or woodland, or maybe even agricultural or open parkland areas. But there can also be lots of other debris from different sources. We can get rubbish bags, children's toys, packaging materials, traffic cones, and sometimes also larger items such as shopping trolleys or mattresses. Now, these are likely to have been the result of deliberate dumping, either directly at the culvert inlet or screen, or further upstream, where they might have been washed into the river from the banks during a period of heavy rainfall. And these blockages can cause big problems. So installing a screen doesn't stop it blocking, it just moves where it happens to make it more accessible. However, sometimes actually these screens can result in more blocking than would have happened if they hadn't been there at all, as they also trap material that would have passed through the culvert without any problems. So if these screens are not well designed and maintained, then they themselves can be a big flood risk. Current research being undertaken at Heriot-Watt University is looking at factors that contribute to the amount of debris that's arriving in the rivers, and also at how different aspects of the design of these screens can influence the amount of debris blocked. So we're looking at things like screen bar spacing, the screen angle, and the distance of the screen from the inlet, to see if there are ways in which we can improve the performance of these screens to minimise the amount of debris blocked without compromising the ability to trap material that might block the culvert if it got access to it. And the results of this research should help improve guidelines for design and installation of these screens in order to reduce any increase in associated flood risk.